What's a good next step on my end? I don't know. I'll call you Friday at 4:30, right? Versus, what's a good next step for me? Matt, I don't know. I totally get it. How about we do this? I'll call you Friday, 4:30 p.m. if I haven't heard from you before then. Fair enough? Right? And when you say fair enough, what you're doing is you're strapping a parachute onto that person and you're giving them the opportunity to pull that ripcord and go, that doesn't work for me, right? Here's the cool thing. When people have parachutes, they feel safe and they'll agree to the thing that you want them to. It's really weird, but if you give somebody an out, they'll stay in longer. Really weird. If you don't give them an out, they'll claw their way out. Hi, I'm Matt Easton, founder of Easton University, the most effective sales coaching in the world, and you're on Behind the Brand with Brian Elliott.
Matt, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Brian.
I usually ask my guests, how did you get this job?
How did I get this job? I created this job from being a broke kid. I had a single mom. She made a whopping $4,000 a year, Brian. That's not a typo. That was actually what she made. Working at a church, raising two boys in the 1980s, and was actually playing with this. This is the one relic I still have from my childhood. This was the actual car I was playing with in 1980, a 79 Porsche Turbo in the mud, because broke kids play in the mud. We don't have yards. And I heard this noise, and I looked up, Kelly Green 79 Turbo, the exact car I was playing with, ran after it. Long story short, we can fill in the box if you want to. If not, that's fine too. The highlight version is the person driving this car was a salesperson selling for a company called Texas Instruments. Gave me a pep talk at 8 years old that completely changed my life, which led me to almost like what you're doing with Behind the Brand, ride around Boulder, Colorado on my bike, seeking out mentors, figuring out how business got done, how deals got done. Became kind of a child prodigy in sales, and then had a very, very successful sales career with companies like ADP and big Fortune 500 companies, and some entrepreneurial endeavors of my own, and now have codified that into the coaching that we teach at Easton University.
Very cool. I want to break that down. I want to hear more of that story. What was the highlight? I know you were 8 years old at the time, so it's sort of hard to maybe recall the specific advice, but like as it began to crystallize for you, as you began to sort of get your business chops, what was one of the main takeaways of that first sort of advice?
Yeah, so there was a bunch of epiphanies in my childhood, but two of them, one was with this gentleman with the Porsche. I had ran to the house when I saw the Porsche drive by that I thought, because and all of the poor kids out there, or people that were poor kids, will know what I'm talking about. There's always that one house where you think that's the people with some semblance of wealth might be. Our rich guy in the neighborhood we lived in was John Carroll. He was an attorney, a lawyer. And I thought, boy, he bought the Porsche. And sure enough, the Porsche was out in front of John's house, Mr. Carroll's house. And that turning point for me was the gentleman walked out and he says, I sell computers for Texas Instruments. And I said, wow, that must be a really great computer. And he used some bad language with me at 8. And in the 80s, people didn't use bad language as much. So it kind of shocked me. He said, no, kid, it's a real piece of shit. And I was like, whoa. And I'm like, all of my energy just fell out of me, because I knew who Mr. Carroll was, and I was like, oh my God, he ripped off Mr. Carroll. And I felt really bad. And he goes, but this, and it was like, and this was that moment for me, Brian. He said, but this computer does one thing and one thing really well. We call it calendar entries. Microsoft wasn't even a company yet. And he said, do you know about Mr. Carroll? And I said, yeah, he's a lawyer. And he goes, do you know about him? And he's nodding his head like I'm nodding. And everybody in the neighborhood knew when you did this, you knew what they were talking about, Mr. Carroll. He was afflicted with Parkinson's. And so Mr. Carroll did this a lot. He had tics. And he said, listen, this computer's not a great computer. It's a TI 99-4. Texas Instruments can't sell them. We're probably going to discontinue it. But what it does really well, kid, is allows Mr. Carroll, with his Parkinson's, he has a choice. He has to take medication at 3 p.m. every day. and he has a choice. He can take his medication at the office and find somebody to drive him home, which is very expensive, or he can drive home early from work at 2:45 to get home at 3 to take his medicine. Here's what we're doing for him today. He's going to now drive home at 2:45 every day and finish his work on his Texas Instruments computer and be able to work a full day like everybody else. He said, "Kid, we're changing Mr. Carroll's life today." And I was like, oh my gosh, right? Like, like the whole world came crashing down around me that you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to have the perfect solution. You don't have to be Coca-Cola or Pepsi or the best thing. If you understand people and where a need is, there's gaps in this world. And this is why I keep this on my desk. Driving a 79 turbo ain't too bad either, right? And that was an epiphany for me in that I was like, oh my goodness, if I can just learn how to communicate better and identify people's problems, I can be the person that quotes unquote changes their life. And that sounded real good to me at 8 years old as a kid that wasn't doing well in school, had no real aspirations or hopes and dreams, that I could use my ability to articulate and marry people with solutions and make the world a better place and get paid doing it.
I love that story. How long did it take you, like calculating from age 8 until like, what was the next little milestone? Like you got a paper route, or, you know, you just went to work at a pizza shop. Like, what was the next milestone after that?
So in life, sometimes, and maybe some of the viewers, listeners will appreciate this. In life, sometimes your circumstances are so bad that it actually is a good thing. Like, for example, if you're in a marriage that is so awful, you'll leave it. Rather than, there's a lot of people that are stuck in bad marriages right now, but it's not so bad that they won't leave it. In my case, my circumstances with my mom's income was so bad that it turned out to be a good thing. I rode around on my bike and I had such little money, I actually wasn't even interested in money. So I would get on the bus, I'd get on my bike, I would go to businesses and I'd hang around the parking lot and say, hey, do you guys need any trash picked up? Do you need any weeds pulled? Back at your house, do you have a dog? Do you need the dog poop picked up? And they'd always say the same thing. Okay, kid, not really, but what did you charge? And I was so broke at that point, I was like, zero. I don't want any money. I just want to hang out and learn. And as soon as I said that,
oh, wow, okay,
people were like, all right, we've got some stuff there in the back. Go pick up all that stuff, put it in those boxes. I want you to sort out the garbage from the t-shirts and come back and tell me when you're done. Mm-hmm. And then they'd be like, what do you want to know? Mm-hmm. And they started, and it was the best thing ever to give up that little bit of money, the $5 here or the $1 here or the 50 cents there, to get things like, I did have regular jobs too, but I remember Merle Sacknoff, a business mogul, one of my jobs at 14 is I was a dishwasher. And he's like, Matt, you got to get out of the dishwasher thing. And I was like, I know, Merle, right? It's horrible. He goes, yeah, but that's not even the real problem. He goes, the real problem is you're in the back of the house. Nobody can see you back there.
Right.
He goes, I want you to go talk to, who's the manager there? It was the Mockingbird Inn was where I worked. He goes, who's the manager at the Mockingbird? Is it Chris? And I said, yeah, it's Chris is my boss, because Merle ate there all the time. He goes, don't get me involved. I don't want to get involved, but I'll get involved if I need to. But I want you to go to Chris today and say, hey, Chris, I'm putting my notice as dishwasher. However, I'd like to be a busser. And you come back and tell me what Chris says. And if he gives you any problem, I'll get involved. And he goes, at least as a busser, you'll get paid the same, but you're in front of people. Mm-hmm. And you'll have the ability to interact with people. He goes, my friends and I are there every Thursday night. So it was those little tips that really changed my life. Like, I ended up bagging groceries, and I had this policy, which is why I probably have an affinity for nice watches. I would keep an eye out, after Merle's advice, for somebody with a Rolex watch. Every 2 or 3 days, you'd see one of those come through.
Wait, is that a Rolex or is that an Omega?
This is a Rolex here,
okay.
This one.
Datejust, or what are you wearing there?
Daytona.
Daytona, okay, gotcha.
Yep. So, and I would create new policies based on my mentor's advice. And I would see a person with a Rolex, and I'd say, we have a new policy here at King Soopers. I have to take your groceries out. And they'd be like, what are you talking about? I've been shopping here for 20 years. I've been taking, I'm like, please, that's my manager over there. His name's Todd. If, it's all possible, I'd like to take your groceries out. They make sure. So then I'd be able to say, wow, that's a nice car. What is it that you do? And like 30% of the people were like orthodontists, Brian. And I had no nothing against our folks in the dental world. They offer a great service. It didn't appeal to me. But, in that way, I just load the, thanks a lot. See you later. Bye, doctor. I'll call you when I need braces. But then other people like Bill Kitchen, who was an inventor, right? I'm an inventor. Oh, boom, boom, boom. Do you ever need Christmas lights put up or dog poop picked up? Or yeah, absolutely. Come by my house, right? And then it just, things started to roll. Things started to click. Bill Kitchen was actually inspirational in the second biggest moment in my life as well. So this is all of these things just kind of fall together.
Yeah. As you're reminiscing or kind of bringing me down memory lane, I'm thinking about my own memories of washing dishes at Lamppost Pizza in your Belinda, back of house, the trays stacked up way over my head, sauce everywhere, high pressure, steamer, just cleaning those dishes. And they just kept bringing them back to me. Like I would finish a whole stack and then a whole new stack. And it just seemed like, yeah, yeah. But you're right. Um, in those days, they rotated us. We all had dish duty, but we also got to work front of house. And those lessons, and I think probably I hear you echoing it too, that everyone ought to work some sort of food service or customer service in their life to understand person to person, hand to hand combat, if you want to call it that, but just like creating relationships, listening to people. If you
100%. And I'll add one thing onto that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of valuable lessons, Brian, there, but one of the biggest ones that nobody talks about is you should learn how to work your way out of that versus quit, right? And that's a big difference. And I started as a dishwasher and then worked my way to busser and then was bagging groceries and then had my own company because I got some money together and parlayed that money into my own business, which was extremely successful as a teenager. But in all of those situations, there was, yes, I learned a lot being in it. And yes, it taught me to work with people and crazy coworkers and bad managers, right? These people at the time, I thought they were successful because they're the manager of the Mockingbird Inn. Chris had a drinking problem and wasn't that skillful of a human being. But I learned to deal with them. But then also I learned to work my way out of it. And those are some of the same skills that I now coach people who make $500,000, $750,000, $1 million a year. Yet, are they washing dishes? No. But they have dishes they have to wash in their jobs, and we work on helping them skillfully get through that. Versus, I quit, I'm throwing in the towel, I'm going to go sell for someplace else, right? There's a method that can get you out of everything.
And so, what does that method look like? What's the starting point? Is there a like codified step 1 through 10? How do we do it?
Yeah. So in my expertise is in the world of sales, in the world of business development, in the world of selling more, in the world of growing your business and helping your customers. And if we were going to codify it, number one, and there's a lot of sales coaches out there. I talk to a lot of sales companies, but you ask them, okay, well, how do you close a deal? And they'll look at you funny, or they'll say something like it's not that simple. It is. Okay, they're wrong. Like, first and foremost, if you're going to read a book or have a mentor or have a coach, you should have a close. Like, my good friend played quarterback in the NFL for 18 years, and if you asked 18 what offense we're running, he'd be able to articulate to you exactly what we're running in the exact play. It should be no different in your sales career. If you say, well, it's not that simple, then you don't have a system. So you should know how to close. But then also the big thing and what makes my coaching different, Brian, and what makes Easton University different is the same things that I learned at a very young age, and that is this. In life and in business and in sales, this rule holds true for everything else. Everything important in life, whether making $750,000 a year, totally doable, getting a date with somebody, closing a big deal, getting a promotion at work. Brian, when you slow the process down in the beginning, you will speed up the results in the end. And nobody talks about this. And I'm going to say it because it's really, really important to understand.
Yeah,
When
please.
you slow the process down in the beginning, you will speed up the result in the end. And most people think about their career and don't hold this litmus test of, would this work if I was dating somebody?
Right. Are you talking about like in a sales pitch scenario, like, just speeding through the process and just hoping and praying that, there's product market fit and that they're the right client for you, or like just trying to jam a square peg into a round hole? Is that what you're talking about, going too fast?
That and more. Because even let's say it's a round peg in a round hole and you're the right peg in the right fit. But let's say you really were in love with somebody and you knew you were perfect for them, and you were. I don't want to get into the whole, let's just say you were perfect for them. For example, if you gave me one of the best and worst things that would ever happen to me is if you gave me a time machine right now, Brian, because I could go back in time knowing what I know now and do really well. Here's where that would be the worst thing that ever happened to me. If you gave me a time machine and I went and met my favorite person in the whole world, my wife, most beautiful woman in the whole world, most amazing woman in the whole world, knowing what I know now, I would sound a lot like how most salespeople sound. I would sound a lot like how most people trying to be vice president of the company sound. And that would be, hey, I'm perfect. We're perfect for each other. We got to do this. If I could just have 10 minutes of your time, I want to explain. And we've got to slow down, right?
Right. You sound like
You
pushy.
sound desperate. And even if you're not desperate, even if you're sure, you have to drop that enthusiasm, right? You have to drop that surety and realize this person is not at the same place that I'm at. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I've got to slow the conversation down,
They
right?
don't see what you see. They don't know what you know. Yeah.
100%. They're not, we're not on the same path. And
Yeah.
if these people never check out Easton University, never get sales coaching from me, if they can just realize that, instead of calling somebody and saying, hey, if I could just have 5 minutes of your time, I'd love to show you how our digital marketing services can blankety blankety blank. They're not there, right? Get somebody's attention. Let them know how you're connected. Let them know you've got an idea that you want to get their opinion on, right? So that might sound like this. Instead of saying, hey, Brian, this is Matt Easton. We do sales coaching. I'd love to show you how I can help your studios capture 15% more clients if I could just have 5 minutes of your time, right? Versus something like this. Hey, Brian, Matt Easton, founder of Easton University, wanted to reach out to you personally because I noticed the studio. I've got an idea that I'd love to get your opinion on. Could you call me on my mobile 720-660-3202? Which one sounds like a sales pitch and which one sounds like an educated person that's letting them know who you are, how you're connected, and that you have an idea you'd like. By the way, this is how good relationships start.
Yeah. Well, and I'll push back a little bit. I'm super cynical, right? And I get these. I almost get that exact same pitch in both forms, multiple times daily. It's either a cold call, a cold email, a cold LinkedIn message, a DM on Instagram. I'm getting barraged on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I mean, all the platforms where I play, I'm getting attacked, I feel. And sometimes it feels super intrusive. It's like, hey, I don't know you, right? So like, why are you messaging me? And most of the time I just ignore it because it does sound like they don't know who I am.
And that's where, I've laid in bed at night thinking about this.
Yeah.
So the people that are sending these pathetic messages out don't have to. The recipe, if you're going to reach out to Brian, everybody.
Well, can I also say in
Yeah.
the same breath that I am guilty of this? So I'm not perfect. Like, and this is why I want to talk to you. It's so intriguing because sales is so important. Back in the day when I read Dan Pink's book, he
Sell is human or something like that.
yeah, his point is we're all in sales,
Yep.
and I agree with that. Even though you may not have the title of sales, but we're all in sales at some point. But yeah, I'm guilty of that, and I was really intrigued because this cold outreach or even follow up, I've been bird dogging what you're doing. I really like your approach. I really like some of the ideas you offer. Yeah, and I want to break it down for people. But yes, please educate me then on what we ought to be doing or ought not to be doing.
Sure.
Some of these
So
cold outreach. Yeah.
here's the recipe, and I'll even start with if it's pretty much the same recipe if it's an email or if it's a voicemail. Now, okay, everybody today, and I'm not going to accuse you of doing this, Brian, but it's an epidemic. We're all real lazy. Okay, nobody goes from zero to hero. I know it may seem that way on social media, but you need to do the work. So if you're thinking I want to just spam out 4,000 emails in a day, okay, you're going to get what you get. The world will reward your efforts or punish you severely. Okay, it's in my opinion, it would be much better to do a slight bit of research and make some phone calls, follow those phone calls up with an email. But either way, the recipe is this. Okay, you're going to get people's voicemail 95% of the time. So if people are, well, I called and I gave up, it doesn't work, nobody answers. You're correct, nobody answers, but you're not correct that it doesn't work. Okay? So the voicemail recipe is this. It's not a mini sales pitch. Hey, Brian, I'd love to show you how we can save you 15% on your advertising. Gross. Okay? It's also not this. Happy Monday to you. Hope your week's off to a great start. Happy Tuesday. Hope you had a great long holiday weekend. Nobody wants to hear that. Okay? They just don't. Yeah. Right. Hope this on this email. Hope this email finds you well. Like it's just because somebody did that a long time ago and they didn't start thinking about this stuff when they were 8 years old. I'm not saying I'm a savant. What I am saying is where most people thought about skateboarding, girls and cars, I thought about all three of those, guilty. But the thing I thought about the most was how can I skillfully navigate life? Okay. And when you sit down and you think about this stuff, you go, well, why the hell am I saying happy Monday to you? Like, what am I trying to achieve by that? And you have to realize that in this day and age, boom, I just got three of them. In this day and age, they're not even listening. They're reading. They're reading your voicemail because they're reading it on visual text. So knock it off with the happy Monday to you. Knock it off with the mini sales pitch. Just let them know who you are, how you're connected, and that you have an idea you want to get their opinion on. Full stop. Full stop. Okay, who you are. It's Matt Easton, founder of Easton University. You and I are connected on LinkedIn. Okay, well, what if we're not connected on LinkedIn? Why the hell are you not on LinkedIn? You're not saying you're first degree connections. You're a second or third degree connection with everybody on LinkedIn. Let's say you're, okay, well, I don't use LinkedIn. Okay, well, what do? We're marketing in Houston. Well, who are you calling? I'm calling pizza shops because Brian used to work there and wash the dishes, right? Hey, I'm in charge of all of our pizza locations in Houston, Texas. I've got an idea I wanted to get your opinion on. Now, the person's going to call you back to the tune of about 747% more likely to call you back over leaving them a mini sales pitch. When they do call you back, okay, this is what I'm talking about, slowing down the process in the beginning to speed up the result in the end.
So pause there for a second. So wait, you're saying to leave the message, whether that's an email or a voice message with context, right? Like, so, let's use my company as an example. It can be the guinea pig and we can beat it up all we want because it's my company. So I have a production company, a video production company. We do audio, video, and photography, storytelling for brands of all different sizes. So you're saying if I have context, like, hey, business A, it looks like, you have a terrible video on your website. You're saying don't go in and say, I can fix that. What should be the context or something like that?
I'm saying don't say you have a terrible website. I'm saying don't say you have anything. I'm not even saying we're video production. Your voicemail is going to sound like this. Hey, Matt, Brian Elliott. I'm the founder of the Good Brain Studios. You and I are connected on LinkedIn, and I've got an idea I'd love to get your opinion on. Can you call me on my mobile 720-660-3202? Okay. That's it.
So it's the mystery. We're dangling a little bit of a cliffhanger. It's It's a
It's
to be
not even the
continued.
mystery too. This is why people that come on to my sales coaching triple their sales typically within 60 days. You have to just stop it. Just erase what you've thought because most of it's garbage. This is not even a mystery. There's no trick. This is not a gimmick. This is how human beings interact.
Yeah, it feels like psychology, though. I mean, let's.
It is a little bit, but it's
Yeah,
also how people talk to other people. And it's really weird that when all of a sudden we put our business hat on, we
yeah,
break all the rules that helped us meet our spouse. We
yeah.
break all the rules that help us be a more skillful parent. We break all the rules that started all. If you think about your best friendships that you've ever had, I guarantee you they didn't start with you calling and saying, "Hey, I noticed you didn't have any friends and I'm a really good friend and I think we should." It's, "Hey, I've got an idea. Man, are you wearing my best friend when I was a kid, Forbes Hill, is that a rat t-shirt?"
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Round and round. My favorite song. Me too. Man, what are you doing after school?
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you walk home or take the bus? I'm going to walk. Mind if I walk with you? Sure. Right? That's how relationships start.
Yeah.
This is why I'm saying if you slow down, Brian,
Yeah.
and just say who you are, how you're connected. Hey, Brian, Matt Easton, founder of Easton University. You and I are connected on LinkedIn. I've got an idea I'd love to get your opinion on. Okay, there's one thing in this world that everybody wants to give, Brian. It's not their time. It's not their money. It's their freaking opinion. I have 1 million followers across social media. Okay, this general area right here, my face. Okay, I get a lot of opinions on my face.
Okay.
You're incredibly handsome. You look like Jason Statham. I love that one. Somebody said that with my wife in the airport, and I'm like, "See, babe?" She's like, "Shut up."
Nice.
Then I also get this. You are incredibly ugly. Shave that thing that's on your, don't look at me. I can't look at you.
Right.
Everybody wants to give their opinion.
True.
Once you understand the rules of the matrix, Brian, you can bend the rules of the matrix.
Point
Right?
taken. Point taken. Okay.
I want to get and listen to my listen to my tonality. Okay. It's not, "Hey, Brian, Matt Easton, founder of Easton University. I've got an idea I want to get your opinion on." It's almost like I'm trying to find the words.
Yeah. I need you. Like you flip the
Yeah,
script a little
I'm
bit.
slowing down and I'm actually putting thought into it. Hey, Brian, Matt Easton, founder of Easton University, you and I are connected on LinkedIn. I've got an idea I'd love to get your opinion on. Could you give me a call on my mobile, 720-660-3202? Right? Now, here's the other thing, okay? And this is what we work on with our students. There's a full system that they learn at Easton University, but I'll change their life right now regardless. Don't screw this up. Don't ruin my reputation. You're going to get 740% more calls when you leave that message. Now, the idea is not, "Hey, thank you so much for calling me back. I'd love to show you how we can train your team there at the studios to sell more and grab new clients," right? It's, you need, like for you with digital studios, "Hey, Brian, it's Matt Easton. Got your message. What's up?" Yeah, Matt, thank you so much for calling me back. Hey, the reason why I wanted to reach out to you is something that we're seeing with a lot of coaching businesses is their costs per click on ads have gone way up, and the ads that they're running just aren't, they don't really have the bite that they used to, and so they're spending more per click, and really the attention span of those viewers has gone down to where they're having to get really a 60-second spot that's going to drive that action. And I was just curious to see how you guys are handling that with the increases in spend from Meta, Google, and now TikTok, and the less ability to segment your audience. Now, notice what I did there. Okay. Did I say anything about what we do at our studios? Nope. Let them know a problem. Okay. This is let them know a problem. What our clients at Good Brain are seeing is let them know the problem. Okay. And then notice how now I'm giving them a valuable insight. Okay. I used to work with McKinsey a lot. They'll park an Airstream trailer in your lot and charge you $750 for an intern. Okay. Sorry, McKinsey. It's true. You know it's true. I know it's true. But what you're doing here is you're giving them McKinsey level advice. Your studio, your production company, Brian, and what you need to go back and tell your people is, guys, we know stuff that the street doesn't know.
Yeah, we got inside information. Yeah.
Yes, let's lead with that value. Now all of a sudden I'm going, man, that's actually pretty interesting. And notice, and I think about every nuance of this. It's like I'm a black belt in jujitsu, and sales in life is a lot like jujitsu. When you think of all the nuances and all the paths that it could go, it becomes very, very easy to get what you want. And in this case, notice what I didn't say. Is that something that you're seeing? I said, cost per click has gone up. Facts. Attention rates have gone down. Facts. You now need to, you don't have 3-4 minutes to get somebody's attention in that spot. And what I'm not saying is this something that you're seeing. What I'm saying is, how are you, I'm just curious to see how you guys are dealing with that.
Yeah. What's your take?
Right. How are you dealing with that? Because if I say, is that something you're seeing? They're going to go, no. But if I go, how are you dealing with it? Well, we're doing our best. And then they're going to get off the phone and go, God dang it. This is the kind of stuff. The Acme came in here. They charged us $3,000 for that last spot. It was a freaking 7-minute spot. I think I know why now we didn't convert anything on it. You know, I got this guy. He's actually the founder of the Good Brain, and his people can come in here. I think we need to hear what they have to say. Versus, hey, I noticed your spot on your video is absolute crap. Okay? And by the way, I get insults like that. You are eastonuniversity.com. All the listeners, you are welcome to go look at all the broken things on my website. But if you lead with how you can fix it, I'm not going to call you back. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you led with an idea and said, you know, a lot of coaching companies are seeing XYZ. One of the reasons for that is ABC. You know, does it make sense? Or I'm actually in Denver quite a bit. Does it make sense for me to swing by the office? I'd love to run through 3 or 4 ideas. And full disclosure, this is the kind of stuff that we solve every day. But I got 2 or 3 ideas that could help you guys out on your campaigns right now, whether you did business with me or not. Again, I teach a brand of selling, Brian, that good faith is involved in this. Being a good person is involved in this. And it pays dividends like no other.
Yeah. That's making a lot more sense now. The go slow. It's, you know, to put it in relationship terms, it's playing a little hard to get, or it's it's going slow. It's building relationships of trust. It's getting to know the other person to see if it's the right fit. Yeah, I get it.
There's a lot of stuff in the middle, and we don't have 13 days, but it's also stuff like the close. Nobody knows how to close a sale. And by the way, closing a sale should be, however you close a sale should be the same thing you're going to use if you want to date with somebody, the same thing you're going to use if you want a child to do their homework, the same thing you want to use if you want to raise with work or to take somebody to lunch, right? Closing is one of the, I could teach everybody, Brian, I could teach you how to close right now, and you'd be a closer for the rest of your life. Easiest thing in the world I teach.
Let's do it.
All right. So what do you want? What do you want me to do? Do you want me to sign a contract with your studios? What do you want from me?
Yeah. So in my experience, if I can get the meeting, the pitch meeting, I close it 9 times out of 10 because people can see the quality of our work. They get to know me, and they know that I keep my word, and that I tell the truth, and I have integrity, and that I want to work with people like me who are aligned with my values, and they want to do great work. And so the most difficult part of our business is just, we have an awareness problem most of the time. It's like right now, I'd say almost all of our business comes from word of mouth, which is nice. But then if you're not actively out there cultivating relationships or doing outreach, sometimes there's a little bit of a gap between projects because we live in project world. Inevitably, we have a fair amount of clients on retainer, but then again, those are still projects. And so if we can get the meeting, if we can get the initial, like, let's meet and talk about the project, 9 times out of 10 we close it.
Sure. I will show you how to get the meeting, but I want to make sure we make you millions of dollars.
Okay.
Let me show you how to close the deal, and it's the same way we'll do the translation for the meeting. Fair enough?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. So what are we talking in your world? Are we talking, is there a contract that needs to be signed?
Yeah, there's
What do you
a
call it? Do you call it a contract? Do you call it an agreement?
yeah, it's like a scope of work plus an agreement. It's like here's what we're going to do, here's what you're going to do, here's how much it costs, here's
Yep.
the
And
timeline.
I'm assuming they need to sign the agreement, correct?
Yes. Hmm.
Okay, perfect. All right. So let me just show you how to close now, and then we'll reverse it into getting meetings. We'll reverse it into whatever you want. Okay. So in life, all right, the two biggest mistakes that people make in closing, and it drives me bonkers because the same people that went to my competitors and apparently went through their training think that handling objections or coming up with some witty, clever things like, hey, Brian, if you don't do this, the rates are going to change. TikTok, TikTok, come on, you got to do it right now, where our schedules are filling up, right? And by the way, for your studios, you guys are, I've seen your work. You are super amazing. You're incredible. You do have limited space on the calendar. However, if you try and use something like that, if you try and use pressure like that, to close the deal, it is going to be the exact opposite. This is like jujitsu. If you push on somebody, they're going to push on you back. So let's not, there's a time and a place to let them know that, hey, our slots are limited. We've got the best team. If that team is not there, we'll have to work around that. How that sounds, by the way, and then I'll teach you how to close. Again, I've got everything in sales covered. On that kind of stuff, you never want to say, hey, if you don't go with this and we don't sign the agreement right now, we might lose this slot. You just say, hey, I totally get it. That you guys need to think about. I just want to be clear on one thing with the way our studios are and the word of mouth that's coming in on our work. Our spaces are filling up pretty quickly. Based on everything that you're telling me, I've got the right team available right now to do this job, but I get it if you need to think about it. If we lose that space, I'll work with you to find the next best one. Fair enough? Mm-hmm. Nobody in this world wants next best, okay? Nobody wants to be pushed on. When you push on them and say, hey, you got to sign it right now, they'll go, we'll see about that. But if I
Right.
go, hey, no problem. If you need to think about it, I just want to be clear. We're probably going to lose this spot, right? And all of September going into October will be booked up, but no sweat. I will work with you. I mean, we're ready to move when you're ready to move. When that time comes, if we lose this spot, I'll work with you to find the next best time. And you're going to find that they're going to go, wait a minute. No, 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 no. Pam needs this. We need this. Pam goes away in October and she's going to be gone. Well, I get it based on what you're telling me, and now I'm going to show you how to close. Okay? So using pressure is not good. The other thing, and you might even be doing this right now, and it's no fault of your own. The other thing that we do is continue to service, and hope that the deal closes itself. It doesn't. Okay? So here's a way that you can now close every deal without being pushy, without being manipulative, without being afraid of no, without being afraid of rejection. There's no way they can reject you, and you're going to have a positive outcome. So here's what I want you to say. And if you have what I call a sword and shield nearby, Brian, write these words down, okay? Does it make sense to blank? Does it make sense to sign the agreement? Does it make sense for us to schedule a meeting to come by and scope this? Does it make sense to do your homework before hockey practice? Does it make sense? I noticed there's a regional manager position available. Does it make sense to put me in that role? When you ask somebody, Brian, if something makes sense, you are not asking them to do anything, okay? So you're not putting any pressure on them. In fact, the inverse, okay? I've spent my whole life thinking about this stuff. And by the way, I wish I had this one figured out because I went to one dance with a terrible date. I don't want to get into it. It was a foreign exchange student, didn't speak a lick of English, figured out she had said da and didn't even know we were going to a dance. So my prom was cut real short when she figured out skinny guy was picking her up, right? Like if I had learned this, I probably would have got a better date to prom. But when you ask somebody if something makes sense, you're not asking them to do anything. And in fact, they feel like they're in control. And when people do things based on their reasons, people, Brian, are exponentially more likely to do something based on their reasons, not on your reasons. Okay? So let's leave our reasons out of it and just ask them if it makes sense. Here's the other cool thing. If you ask somebody, does it make sense to blank? They cannot reject you on doing blank, signing the agreement, having a meeting to go over the scope of work, promoting you to regional manager, doing their homework before hockey practice, because you asked them a timing question. And when you simply go from an all or nothing request, do you want to sign the agreement? No. Do you want to promote me to regional manager? No. Do you want to do your homework before hockey practice? Yes. If I ask my son that, the yes is never going to happen, right? But if you that's an all or nothing request, meaning you're relegating your life to a coin flip. That's not a good way to go through life. So if I ask a timing question and you say no, what have you said? Not right now. So it perfectly positions me to say this. So, hey, Brian, based on everything you're telling me, I think this campaign is the right fit. We've got it scoped out. I do have the team available now. They can start work on this, and we should be able to have this done by your deadline of October 7th. Does it make sense to sign the agreement? Yeah, it does. And you're going to find when you say, does it make sense to sign the agreement and shut the hell up, all of a sudden, Brian, trust me, come back and let me know. It's going to start raining down deals on you. They're going to be like, yes. And you're going to be like, oh my God, they said yes, right? To which now you're going to use these next words. Congratulations, you made a great decision. Always say that. Memorialize the fact that they made a decision. And then say, what happens next? And in your line of work, Brian, this is a fatal mistake that so many people make, is they believe that they have to line up all of the dominoes to knock them over one by one. Again, the way I teach sales is the way the real world works. And you don't get down on one knee and ask, hey, Brian, right? We've been together 4 years. You're my best friend. Open up a big diamond ring. Would you like to go pick out rehearsal dinner stationery? Right? People don't do that in the real world because it doesn't work. They go, will you marry me? And the person goes, yes. And you go, awesome. Should we elope? Should we have it? Now you figure out what happens next. Use that same philosophy in your business. So if you guys have to do a scope, if you have to figure, if there's some things, right, some hanging chad things with the studio that you need to know before you can get them a final invoice, why not just go for the close and goes, hey, does it make sense to have us lead this project for you? Or does it make sense to sign the agreement? Yes, it does. Congratulations, you made a great decision. What happens next? Chris from my team is going to reach out to you. So a couple things we need to know on the locations and how much travel will be involved. Once I have those, we'll get you the final documentation over there to sign. Fair enough? But they've now agreed to the thing you want them to do.
Right.
Okay? Here's the beauty of does it make sense? The real magic happens is when you get told no. Okay? Hey, Matt, does it make sense to sign the agreement? No. Watch this general area. Listen to the words that come out of my mouth. Okay. Hey, Matt, does it make sense? Hey, Brian, does it make sense to sign the agreement? No. Got it. What's a good next step then? And I'm waiting for an answer.
Right.
And so many people, and I'm talking people, there's even people that make seven figures, over $1 million a year, that don't understand this. And if they did, they'd make $10 million a year, right? Here's what they do. It doesn't make sense. They don't even do does it make sense, but I'll just pretend they're that skillful. Does it make sense to sign the agreement? No. Well, why not? What do I need to do to get your business? Okay. In life, again, guys, I lay in bed at night thinking about this. I know I need to get a life. I lay in bed at night thinking about this stuff. And here's what I learned at about 23 years old. In life, people will answer the questions you ask them. I'm going to repeat that. It's really important to understand. People will answer the questions you ask them, even when they don't have an answer. Not one person in the history of humanity has ever gone, hey, does it make sense to sign the agreement? No. Well, why not? Well, now that you say why not, I'm cataloging my brain and I actually realized I just said that reflexively because I'm a parent and when my kids tell me, I say no, and I can't think of any reasons why not. When you say why not, guess what they'll do? They'll tell you why not. Why not? Well, hey, Brian, so here's the deal. We've got 3 other production companies that we're looking at. And, Megan needs to get involved with this decision. And, I just haven't seen enough of your work to make a decision. Now they're just going to, it's literally like if you watch the show Yellowstone. It's like if you want the horse to go this way, don't point it that way and smack it on the butt because it will run that way. And that's what you get with why not. So just go, what's a good next step then? And if Megan really does need to review the scope of work, guess what they'll tell you? Megan's got to review the scope of work. Outstanding, makes perfect sense. What's the best way to get this over to Megan? Could you email it to her and CC me? Absolutely, I'll do it right now. What's a good next step on my end? Could you follow back with me? I'm going to talk to Megan. Today's Tuesday. I'll talk to Megan on Thursday. Could you call me Friday? Absolutely. I'll call you Friday, 2 p.m. if I haven't heard from you before then. Fair enough? Yeah. And all of a sudden, guys, when you follow a process, right? What's a good next step then? Let's say the person says, I don't know. I'm giving them millions of bucks right now. I'm literally, if the listener really listens to what I'm saying, and I'm not that smart, and I've made tens of millions of dollars, okay? From knowing these little things. You're welcome, okay? What's a good next step then? I don't know. Guess what? People love to boss other people around. What's a good next step then? I don't know. Point the question at yourself now. People love to boss other people around. Totally get it, Brian. What's a good next step for me? Or totally get it, Brian. What's a good next step on my end?
Right. What would you have me do? Yeah.
I wouldn't even say, what would you have me do? And here's why. And again, I think about this stuff all the time. Yeah. If I say, what would you have me do? It sounds a little off-putting, and it sounds like you're going to have to do something, and then they're going to get combative. But if you just say, makes sense, what's a good next step for me? They'll tell you, call me Friday. And here's the other thing, and I'll save you the therapy bill. We're super pessimistic by nature, and we think on our deals, whether it's that person that we know we love, but they don't know we exist, we're actually a lot closer to having lunch with them than we think in our head. You're actually a lot closer than you think in your head, right? Henner probably thought I'd never get my backpacks on Shark Tank. I believe he got his backpacks on Shark Tank, right? Because you got to stay positive. You got to trust the process. It's just like jiu-jitsu. So point the question at yourself. What's a good next step for me? Worst case, they go, I don't know, which, by the way, people love to boss other people around, cheat code, and they'll tell you. But if they still say, I don't know, go, hey, totally get it. And now you've earned the right to set a next step. How about we do this? I'll circle back with you Friday, 4:30 p.m. if I haven't heard from you before then. Fair enough? Right? Yeah, that works for me. And then just be skillful. Here's the cool thing about the Easton University process. I'm giving you a process to where there's no pressure. You don't feel like you got to take a shower at the end of the day. But your NSO, your next step obsessed, all you're doing is setting a next step. You're asking people if it makes sense. Okay. And then I'm freeing up your day. Like if you teach the people at your studios just what we taught today, they'll be able to work about 7 times more leads. 7 times more leads. Why? Because they're not, when they meet with you, they're not going, hey, Brian, the dog food company, I'm not sure, but you're going to have meetings with them. Go, hey, where are we at with Puppy Love?
Right.
Brian, Meg has got to review it. I sent everything over to Meg. Tony is going to meet with her on Thursday, and then I'm going to call Tony Friday, 4:30 p.m. if I haven't heard from him before then.
Yeah.
And guess what they then get to do? This is the wonderful thing. All of my stuff works the same way it would in a love relationship, save one thing. In business, we don't have to be monogamous, okay? In business, you can have as many suitors as you want. So when they find out that Meg at Puppy Love needs to review that scope of work, guess what and it's Tuesday, and they're going to follow up with Chris or Dave or whoever it is Friday at 4:30. Guess what they get to do now between Tuesday and Friday at 4:30? Call other companies, right? Hey, Kitty Love, it's Matt Easton over here at the Good Brain Studios. You and I are connected on LinkedIn. I've got an idea that I'd love to get your opinion on. Can you give me a call on my mobile? Fill the pipeline, right? But here's the problem, and this goes back to full circle what I was saying. Everybody has that inverted. They go really fast in the beginning, expecting big results, and then the back end goes really slow. When you slow down in the beginning and you monetize and go, hey guys, I realize, based on everything you're telling me that last campaign, sounds like, I don't want to throw mud at the other people, but you're telling me you spent $475,000 on that spot. It does sound like it was overpriced a little bit. We can certainly get the price per spot down. But the real magic here is if we can get a shorter ad, your advertising costs are going to go down by 40%. And if we can just increase your click-through rate on these spots by 300%, you're telling me that you're spending $104,000 a month in advertising. We could actually either reduce that ad spend or get you 7 or 4 times more in profits. And you had told me that the company did 2.7 million in bottom line profits last year with the difference in this campaign with the same amount of spend. we're north of 6 million. Does it make sense for us to move forward with the project? Right? When you slow down in the beginning and you monetize, you get your arms around not just that they want a new spot, but why do they want it? What is the outcome that you're, and by the way, not to take the magic out of the wonderful work that you do, Brian, but the real magic is in the outcome, right?
Yeah, that's all people care about, right? They just want the result.
Yes,
Doesn't matter who comes from.
right.
So
But everybody skips over that in the
yeah.
beginning.
Well, I love every bit of this. My brain processes things slowly, I think, more slowly maybe than most normal people. So I want to digest this a little bit. But while it's sort of sinking in, does it make sense for us to go back to the beginning? And I want to find out like what you do, because I'm in the situation right now actually, where the CEO of a company and I hit it off, and it did make sense for us to work together. And then he introduced me to his VP of marketing, and she's wonderful, amazing, super talented. But I am having a hard time getting back on her schedule after that introduction from the top. It's like the top said, hey, we should be working together. He's the CEO. He delegated properly to his team. And it's like, all right, we should be moving this thing along. But it's like, I'm in now like in the fourth and fifth follow up. So could you please break down? I love your follow up process, and I've heard you talk about it lots. What to say, what not to say. Can we go back just to that follow up scenario when you're just not getting a reply? And maybe it's more of this "does it make sense" language, but let's break that down and get real specific on that.
For sure. So let's have the names changed to protect the innocent, okay? Because we don't want anybody. Let's just say the CEO's name is Joe, okay? And let's say the VP is Tina, all right? Side note, because I'm going to relate this. What belt are you in? Are you still just regular, no stripe?
Just getting started. I'm a newbie.
Okay.
And I
You
started.
might not have even figured this out yet.
Okay.
I'm going to give you some advice as a black belt
Yeah.
that I wish somebody told me, okay? You're going to go in there, and you're going to feel like you're going to die. You're going to hate every second of it in the beginning. At some moments, you're going to love every second. Every time you get in your car, though, afterwards, you're going to be like the best time I ever had. But there's something that you need to realize as a white belt, okay? You're going to be like, I am screwing this up. I'm so terrible at this. Nobody's watching you, Brian. They don't care. And you're going to do something really cool. And you're going to have, especially if it's where I think you're training, you're going to have either a black belt instructor, a really good purple belt, or a brown belt. And you're going to be like, wow, they probably saw me. Yeah, they didn't. Right? So here's what you need to realize. And the reason why I'm telling you that story is this is where we get too caught up in our follow up. And we think, oh my God, I said the same thing last week. Tina, name changed to protect the innocent. I'm sorry, Brian, you are super handsome. You're amazing. You've got a great product and a wonderful voice. All that said, she don't remember what you said last time. Okay. Sorry. It's the same as you going to class as a white belt. Like you're not paying. Everybody's caught up in their own world. Okay. So with that, here's the other. Okay. So step number one, I need you to get out of your own head and be like, okay, I have to come up with something clever and new every time. You don't. Step number two, what does it mean that Tina didn't call you back? In order to save time, this is something we teach to our certified master sales consultants, okay? They learn this right away, is it means nothing when Tina doesn't call you back. You don't know what the hell's going on in Tina's life. And the minute you try and punish her, the minute you try and say, hey, Tina, the last thing I want to do is be a pest, you're being a pest. The minute you say, hey, Tina, I've been trying to get a hold of you for 3 weeks. I haven't heard from you. I just want to know if this deal is still dead or alive. It's not good. It's not skillful. Okay. Again, going back to real life, you probably had this happen to yourself. You might have been the person that did it. I think I might have done this once in my life. I know my wife's roommate had somebody that did this to her ad nauseum, 2:00 in the morning on her voicemail. I'm breaking up with you. You never call me, right? That's what you sound like when you're like, hey, it's been 3 weeks and I haven't heard from you. You sound like the drunk person that just got out of the bars, right? That's now blowing up somebody's voicemail and is going to regret it. Don't do any of that. Okay.
I think this is a point to really underscore is that we assign meanings to things that we have no idea about, right? And it's this idea, this is an old philosophy idea too, right? Like
You are super dope, amazing, and awesome, Brian, as it is. But the minute that you think, oh my God, sales is not for me, the minute you can, it's just like jujitsu. The minute you can have an open mind and go, okay, I'm just going to trust the process. The minute, and you're going to have all these epiphanies with your jujitsu, you're going to be like, oh my goodness, right? Like an armbar is really freaking powerful stuff. This is the same thing. So with Tina, okay, we're not assigning any meaning to anything. You don't care. Okay. If this deal closes, you don't care. If it doesn't close, you don't care. You're going to be skillful and let the chips fall where they may. So Joe is our CEO. Okay. So rule number 1, Tina didn't pay attention to what you said last time. Rule number 2, the fact that Tina didn't call you back doesn't mean anything. Rule number 3, okay. No bad language. No F-bombs. What's the F-bomb? Follow up. Okay. Forget it. You're never saying that again. Hey, Tina, it's Brian with it's Good Brain Studios, right? Yes? No? Okay. Hey, Tina, Brian with Good Brain. I'm just following up. And I know you don't sound like that, but as soon as you say the words, that's what they hear. And, oh, you smell that? Commission breath, right? What Tina hears is, hey, Tina, I just wanted your money. So not we're just following up. And no happy Monday to you. And no, I haven't heard from you. Okay. And you were right. You were actually right. I'm proud of you. Okay. I'm going to give you a stripe on your white belt. Okay, we are going to, does it make sense? Guys, I teach jujitsu for sales. You're not going to learn 4,000 different moves. You're not going to learn any moves. You're going to learn a system and a process that works. Okay, this is part of the system. So what we're going to say to Tina is, hey, Tina, now if you want to throw in, had that meeting with Joe, I'm okay with that. But we're not going to say, I'm following up from my meeting with Joe. Right? Now, if you were NSO, which I wish you were.
Oh, okay. So now I have a question to insert here.
Yeah.
I think I know the answer already, but I want to hear it from you. There's a temptation to CC Joe on this.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Yeah, it's just bad form, right? It's like you're almost kind of making a threat.
Yeah. Down the road, I don't think we're there yet, but down the road, you can always call Joe and say, hey, Joe, it's Brian with Good Brain. I haven't been able to get a hold of Tina. Where do we go from here? Right? Or you can change it to, you can still say on your basics, because basics work. Ask Henner, right? They've built many a world champion off of basics, right? Hey, Joe, it's Brian with Good Brain. Haven't been able to get a hold of Tina. Does it make sense to have you schedule that meeting? But I don't think we're there yet. Okay? I don't know. I don't know how long this has been going, but I don't think we're there yet.
It kind of throws her under the bus, but yeah, okay.
Yeah. Now, here's the other thing. If you were on my coaching in a CMSC, you would be next step obsessed, and you'd be able to use my 2 favorite words, as promised, right? It's a big difference. Hey, Tina, it's Brian with Good Brain Studios, as promised. It's 3:03 on Tuesday, calling to see if it makes sense to get that meeting scheduled. Because I had said I'm going to call Tina, but we're not there. That's fine. We can go back and fix that stuff later. So right now, all I want you to do with Tina is just, hey, Tina, Brian with Good Brain. What is it that we need her to do? Do we need to have a meeting with her?
Yeah, I just need her to have, because like it did make sense for us to work together when I talked to the CEO. He's like, yep, this makes sense. We're aligned. We'd love to work together.
And we're going to say the CEO's name is Joe. Let me give you an exact one, like, because at eastonuniversity.com, there's online training, and then I do live coaching with the students twice a week. And if you were one of my members, I would give you a live on this exact scenario. Okay. So let's just pretend you're on the live, right? This is what I would say is, hey, Tina, it's Brian with Good Brain. Joe wanted you and me to get together, calling to see if it makes sense to get that meeting on the calendar. I'm on my mobile, 720. Now that's not being pestering, but facts. I'm okay with you saying facts, right? You're not adding, and be careful. Joe said we should get together. In my last meeting with Joe, next steps he wanted was for you and I to get together in a meeting, calling to see if it makes sense to get that on the calendar. And now listen to my voice, calling to see if it makes sense to get that on the calendar. You can reach me on my mobile, 720-660-3202. Okay, 1 week later, hey, Tina, hey, Tina, Brian with Good Brain Productions. When I met with Joe, he wanted you and I to get together, calling to see if it makes sense to get that on the calendar. I'm on my mobile, and you're like, well, wait, that's the exact same thing that I said before. Yes. It is. It's not that hard, right? Yeah. And I'm telling you, that's going to work. Okay. No happy Mondays. And if it doesn't work, please leave that message 3 times. Now, don't leave it once on Tuesday, once on Wednesday, once on Thursday. That reeks of desperation. Let's wait a little bit, right? But as we start to get closer, maybe we get Joe back involved and just say, hey, Joe, I haven't been able to get a hold of Tina. Now, here's why I don't ever want you to punish Tina because, and by the way, this happens, knock on wood that this is Tina, wherever you are, we love you, but you're going to find sometimes Tina's going through she's got a child at Children's Hospital right now. That's why she hasn't called you back. You know what, Brian, let's go ahead. I want to just take as much off of Tina's plate as possible. I appreciate you circling back with me. Let's just go ahead and move forward with the project on that. And if you were the butthead that was like, hey, Tina, the last thing I want to do is be a pest, and she's reading that while she has a child in Children's Hospital, dude, that ain't cool.
Well, the same goes for, she's probably in New York right now at meetings with the buyers. And so she's at one of the biggest conferences of the year and you have no idea. Yeah.
Or she's a jerk, right? But this is something that I talked with. We just had a live today. And what I talked about with my students, I'm like, you got to make a choice at some point. Okay. And by the way, not to give free marriage counseling out there, works in relationships as well. Sometimes you have to make a choice. Do you want to get your way? Do you want to get the deal? Do you want to be happy? Or do you want to be right? And I get it. There's a possibility that Tina's really caught up in the meeting. There's a possibility that Tina's got a kid in Children's Hospital. There's also a possibility that Tina don't want to work with you, right? And Tina wants to be CEO of the company and she don't like Joe. Well, I'm not going to punish Tina, right? And that's where I have been a very successful human being and I've made a lot of money and live a much better life than I did with a single mom that made $4,000 when I stopped trying to be right? And just, hey, does it make sense to get your team access to the sales coaching? No. What's a good next step then? We're never going to buy your sales coaching, right? Have your NOS, N-O-S, net outcome statement. No problem. We'll be here when you need to increase sales and top line revenue. Fair enough? Yeah, we'll see about that. That person usually is going to it was Jimmy. Hey, I get a call from the CEO, Joe. Hey, I know you were talking with Jimmy before. We let Jimmy go, right? Don't get in fights with these people. Just trust your process. Follow your process. Yeah, let's not punish anybody for anything. Let's just, like Sully Sullenberger, right? We're going to go ahead and land. Would you like a runway at Teterboro? Negative. What's going on? Engine. Which engine? Both engines. Would you like a runway at Teterboro? Unable. Would you like a runway at LaGuardia? I can give you 6-9 at LaGuardia. Unable. Would you like any runway you want at LaGuardia? Unable. We're going to go ahead and land on the Hudson. I want you guys to land these deals on the Hudson, right? Be Sully. Be calm. Be cool. Be collected. Even when you don't get the deal, when you lose your stuff and you're like, well, the last thing I want to do is be a pest, right? Or send emails that start with just bumping this up to the top. You're a business leader. How many emails do you get, Brian, every day that go just bumping this up to the top?
600.
And me too. And I know a little part of your soul, right in this general area, your gut dies a little bit when you hear that because you're like, this person, you think the same thing I think. You go, they're freaking trying to teach me a lesson, right? Which I go, delete.
Most of the time I delete, but sometimes I do feel guilty because I did promise that I would call them back or follow.
Here's the difference.
Yeah.
You're going to feel guilty either way. But when they try and teach you a lesson, go, haven't heard from you, you did? I'm just bumping this up to the top.
Yeah.
You're going to now, not only do you feel guilty, but they tried to punish you. There's nothing better than, and by the way, again, my stuff works in relationships.
Yeah.
Do I want my wife to teach? I screw up all the time with Heather. She is way smarter than I am. She knows, hey, it's better for me to not teach him a lesson. He knows, I know. And then he's like, oh, God, I was a schmuck on that one, right? But if she tries to teach me a lesson, we got a fight on our hands.
So when it's not working out and Tina never responds after, when should I quit? Third message, fourth message?
Never. And what I mean by that with a big asterisk. So I'm the only one in the world talking about this right now. This is exclusive to Easton University. It won't be. When my grandkids are out there, whatever they do with the company, I don't know, but this will be a standard. I teach sustainable pipelines. So what I mean by that is I never want you to say something to Tina where she's like, don't ever call me again, take me off your list. Okay. Then you're going to be in the net outcome statement. Here's what I would do. I would go, depending on the deal. If he wanted you to have the meeting with Tina, I'd let it go a month, and then I'd reach back out to Joe in a non-snarky way and say, hey, Joe, I just wanted to give you a heads up. Here's where I'm at on my side. I was unable to schedule a meeting with Tina. Does it make sense for either you to help schedule that or for us to do something different? And then wait for the response, right? And if he says something like, well, I did talk to Tina, we're just not there yet. No problem. We'll be here when you need. And this is where you got to work on your net outcome statement. But your net outcome is not a studio, okay? It's not sales coaching. I'll be here when you need sales coaching. Well, I don't need sales coaching. Your net outcome is the outcome of working with you. So even if you were a company that picked up dog poop, okay? It's not we'll be here when you need your dog poop. We'll be here when you want to be able to just cruise around your yard and not have to worry about stuff like that, right? We'll be here when you need better content that improves your conversion rates.
And maybe the underlying sentiment is non-snarky. You don't make them feel guilty.
NOS, net outcome. I will be here when you need blank, which goes back into, and we won't get into this, what I coach is sustainable pipelines. This goes into what I would call the spin cycle. And then 6 months later, you're going to call Joe back. And you're going to say, hey, Joe, it's Brian over here at Good Brain Studios. Hey, something just came up this morning. Was thinking about you guys, and I've got an idea I want to run by you. Starting the cycle right over again. And it's a new idea, and it's going to give Joe value. Okay. I became the #1 person at ADP just by simply saying, people would be like, well, we're not on ADP. Makes no difference to me. I get paid either way. My job's to help you. Right. I do have a couple ideas that can save you guys quite a bit, whether you do business with me or not. And I am in Bozeman next week. I'd love to share those with you. Does it make sense for me to swing by? Right. And then they're like, holy crap, who was that guy? Our current vendor, and I'm not going to say names, our current vendor never even let us know that. Right. And they would be, the people couldn't figure out how I would close so many deals because a little study, you call me and hey, it's April, our contract's up, we're going with you. Here's another one. Right? When I get in the board meeting with somebody, when I get in the room with somebody, I'm not opening up the MacBook in your case and everybody, we're really excited. Thanks everybody for being here. Let's all go around the room and say who we are and our favorite food and all that. Right? Look at Joe, look at Tina. Hey, Tina, I've got some thoughts on where we need to go, kind of your current situation, the capabilities you guys need with the campaign. I'd love to share those with you. But before we even do that, we got 20 minutes to set aside here. Tina, what's the most important thing that we need to accomplish during these 20 minutes? And nobody does that. Nobody does that because their ego, they think they have to be the smartest person in the room. But this is something, I am not kidding you. I would bet my life on $7 million. I don't know what the exact number is, but this one thing has made me personally, not 7 million in sales, me personally $7 million by starting every meeting that was scheduled with a Joe or a Tina. We got 30 minutes set aside here, Joe. What's the most important thing that we need to accomplish? When you do that, and by the way, I've heard this is why I brought up the Children's Hospital thing. I've heard this exact one. Wish I didn't have to hear it. Hope everything worked out. Hey, I'm glad you said that, Matt. We're dealing, it's not that serious. My son he was sliding into a baseball and just literally exploded his foot last night. He's in Children's Hospital right now, and I wanted to be respectful of you, but I'd like to get over there. Honestly, most important thing we need to accomplish, I just need to know, is there an annual contract with Easton University? No, it's month to month. Perfect. How do I get signed up? I'll send you over a link. You can click through it while you're at the hospital. It's pretty easy. Just need you to sign up, put the correct. Awesome. Thank you so much, Matt, for being understanding on this. Awesome. I'll let you get to your kid. Versus I could have sat there and people will answer the questions you ask them, right? Hey, how's your weekend? Not too great. Got a kid had an accident in baseball. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that. I got a kid and this is another thing that we do that's disgusting. I got a kid that's in hockey too, and I know all about. No, you don't. Stop it. What's the most important thing we need to accomplish during our 20 minutes, right? It's simple. Life and sales and growing the good brain, right? Expanding your business. If this is jujitsu, if you just follow the jujitsu, way easier.
Yeah, I love that. I'll co-sign that too. And I have had the most success with a very similar approach and question. My question was a little bit different. And I tell the story a lot on this podcast, or at least I have a few times. I've told it with Chris Doe. I've told it with Chris Voss, some of these other negotiators. And I'm taken aback a lot because I get pitched a lot too for products and services that are related to my industry. But I am surprised at how infrequently people ask, Brian, what do you need? Like, what don't you have right now that if you had would like make all the difference? And I asked that question when I was trying to land, do an event with my mentor now, Seth Godin. And he rejected me several times. And I tell this story. The video went viral, the whole thing. But yeah, I just simply asked, "What do you need?" And he paused, and there was some time, and you could tell he was thinking because we were on a phone call at that point. And then he told me what he needed, and I said, "Okay, I have a solution for that. I can actually, I've got an idea," and I proposed the idea on the spot, and he accepted, and kind of the rest is history. But yeah, getting right to the point, I think, is excellent.
100%. And what a great story. And I think you would probably agree with me with my analysis of if you had to look at the best personal relationships you've had in your life, they probably started in a very similar fashion. Unfortunately, and some people are like this with their personal relationships, which is why they're single forever. But unfortunately, in our careers, we think that we need to be the smartest person in the room. And that's not the case a lot of times. Oftentimes, the person that you're talking to has the intelligence and the wherewithal to sell themselves. What they need is almost more like a therapist to guide them through. Because although you're super excited about what you guys are doing with your production company, as am I, you guys are changing the world and making it great. But oftentimes what you need to realize is when they're having that dialogue with you, Brian, this may be the first time when you're saying, what is it that you need? This may be the first time that they're actually thinking about it themselves. And there's a lot of benefit there, right? So as you guide, what's the most important thing that we need to accomplish? Why is that? Right. And by the way, I'll give them some more cheat codes, right? Right out of Easton University. Okay. You can ask anybody any question, even the uncomfortable ones. And sometimes the uncomfortable questions are the best service you could ever provide. If you put this softener in front of it, just out of curiosity, right? Because now it's just out of curiosity. Hey, what did you guys pay for your last campaign? We paid Nunya. Nunya? Yeah, Nunya Business. I just want your bottom dollar there at Good Brain. Hey, man, that's interesting that didn't go well. Just out of curiosity, what did you pay for that spot that's on the homepage? Well, I don't know exactly. If you were to know, if you were to take a guess, what would it be? $472,541. I lied. I did know. I saw it. It disgusted me, which is why I never show anybody that video on the homepage anymore. Now you're having a good conversation, right? So you can ask any question with just out of curiosity. And by the way, I'll give them the flip side of that coin. You can make any statement if you put fair enough at the end of it, right? Because if I say, hey, Brian, I'll call you Friday at 4:30, that's obtuse, that's rude, that's assumptive, right? And you'll be like, I'm not going to answer, right? That guy's a jerk. But if I listen to the difference, hey, Brian, I'm going to call you hey, Brian, what's a good next step? I don't know. Totally get it. What's a good next step for me? I don't know. And I'm going too fast through this in the essence of time, right? I wouldn't talk that fast. But what's a good next step on my end? I don't know. I'll call you Friday at 4:30, right? Versus, what's a good next step for me? Matt, I don't know. I totally get it. How about we do this? I'll call you Friday, 4:30 p.m. if I haven't heard from you before then. Fair enough? right? And when you say fair enough, what you're doing is you're strapping a parachute onto that person and you're giving them the opportunity to pull that ripcord and go, that doesn't work for me, right? Here's the cool thing. When people have parachutes, they feel safe and they'll agree to the thing that you want them to. It's really weird, but if you give somebody an out, they'll stay in longer. Really weird. If you don't give them an out, they'll claw their way out. Here's the other cool thing that happens. When you say fair enough, I'll call you Friday at 4:30. Fair enough? Well, actually, that doesn't work for me. I've got my son's hockey practice. Call me Thursday. Perfect. I'll call you Thursday at 2. Fair enough?
I love the fair enough statement. How about in email form? If you're going for the appointment time, I've heard you talk about, how terrible it is to say, like, when do you want to meet? It's almost like, like, where do you want to eat? Where do you want to eat at this restaurant? It's like, you should be more definitive and pick. So what's the proper etiquette or protocol when we're trying to set that meeting? Okay, assume, okay, people want to meet and you're going back for the appointment. Do you give one specific time, three specific times?
One, but I do it a little bit differently. Okay. Bang, bang, jab, cross. Okay. It's not jujitsu, that's boxing, but we're going to jab, cross. Okay. So you're going to think of the time that you think works for them, but that's also great for you. Let's say that's Tuesday at 10. Okay. So what you're going to do then is you're going to create whatever system you're using. You're going to create a calendar invitation for Tuesday at 10. Then you're going to create a separate email and you're going to say this: hey, Brian, I sent you over based on our last conversation. We need to get together with Hey, Joe, based on our last conversation, you want to get together with Tina. I've sent you an invitation for Tuesday at 10. If that time works, simply accept, and forward to anybody else who you'd like to join the meeting. If not, feel free to suggest a new time. Okay. Now, when you lead, and we just had this, one of the biggest app companies out there, I'm not going to say their name, you'd recognize it. They're out of Silicon Valley. Bob, one of their lead people, is like, oh my gosh, we started doing this. Because Bob's a numbers guy, he's like 86% of the time, they just accepted the meeting. He's like, we're in control of our own life now. Okay. The 14%, guess what they said? Tuesday at 10 is not going to work with me. Now, here's what I don't want you to do. And I don't want to get into the specifics of it, but we can. But please don't say, I've sent a link to my Calendly. No disrespect. I don't need Calendly getting a hitman after me. It is gross. It is disgusting. It is obtuse. It is rude, especially with the deal sizes that you're doing. We're not sending them a link to the calendar. It's not their job to go into your calendar and pick a time. You're a professional. The Calendly link, Calendly, hi, your link is useful in a passive setting, meaning it's on the website. Book a time for one of our meetings. Great. That's a perfect use for Calendly. But if I'm already engaged with Joe and Tina, the CEO of a company and a VP of a company, and I'm sending them a link to my calendar saying, you do the work, that's gross. Okay. So we're going to say 10 o'clock. Now, that's how you're going to do the meeting. You're going to send them, boom, boom, same time, a calendar invite and that email saying, I've sent you an invitation for Tuesday at 10 a.m. And the exact words are, if that time works, simply accept and forward to anybody else you'd like. If not, feel free to set a new time. And you notice in those meeting requests, they can go in and change the time. And then guess what you get to do? Accept, right? Makes it a lot easier. Now, I want to talk because you mentioned something on the fair enough, okay? Man, this is like exactly what we go through on the live coaching. This is like you're in the live coaching session. On an email, I don't want you to use fair enough. Here's why. Listen to how it sounds in conversation. Hey, Brian, I'll call you Friday at 4:30 if I haven't heard from you before then. Fair enough? Sounds great. Collaborative. But if I put fair enough, if you read it, I can't get into it, but I can't get my arms around it. It just doesn't feel right. So, yeah, what you're going to do on your emails, and if you have your sword and shield, which I know you do, I think you have the same pen I do. Boom, we are pen brothers. Oh, well, those other pens are trash. This one, we're pen brothers. Okay, so these, I call them my $2 million questions. They're not, each of them are $1 million. Together, they make the two $1 million questions. At the end of your emails, Brian, I want you to get in the habit of putting these two sentences. Does that match what you need? Question mark. Did I miss anything? Question mark. It's huge, right? Hey, Joe, per our discussion, and this is where like we could have gone with the Tina situation. Per our discussion, I believe that we're a perfect fit for the campaign. Next steps, right? Current situation. 2 or 3 sentences. Capabilities needed. You need a studio that's local. You need a team that's designated your account. You need somebody that understands your industry. Based on everything you told me, we're a perfect fit. Next steps. You had suggested that I meet with Tina and that I reach out to Tina, her email being tina@acme.com. I'll reach out to her today as soon. I've already sent her an invitation to get together. Then your $2 million questions. Does that match what you need? Question mark. Did I miss anything? And this is where I know you can't go back in time with Joe and Tina, but this is where now all of a sudden you start getting emails back from Joe, right? Hey, Brian, I wanted to let you know, Tina's boy had an accident at baseball practice. I didn't realize it just happened last night, but Tina's son had an accident at baseball practice. She's going to be on some PTO here for about 3 weeks. So what I'd like you to do, I've CC'd Larry Simmons. I'd like you to work with Larry on this because we need to take some stuff off of Tina's plate, right? And here's the other cool thing. When you do that, and I call it the power email, right? You break it into current situation, capabilities needed, next steps, and then end with those 2 questions. If you're off at all on any of those 2 questions and you say, does that match what you need? You're giving Joe an opportunity to go, no, right? We didn't tell you we need radio with this. Yes. You want to find that out, right? Does that match what you need? Did I miss anything?
Yeah. Did I miss
Right?
anything is so great. I just love that so much. Yeah.
And then here's another one before a meeting. Like if I'm going to summarize the situation before, hey, Joe, what's the most important thing we need to accomplish over these next 20 minutes? I'm good to go. I just need to see the demo. Perfect. Before we do, let me just kind of recap my understanding of your current situation. It's ba, 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 ba. You need somebody local. You need somebody that understands the industry, and you need these spots to be shorter, and you need to get the budget down per spot of less than 150,000. Does all that match what you need? Yes. Look at what I did. Now when he goes and he starts complaining, because most objections are really complaints, I gave him an opportunity to say, hey, what's most important to me is that we have a designated account manager.
Yep.
Right? He didn't say that in the beginning. I'm not saying you're going to punish him, but psychologically, we just went down the checklist of does that match what you need? Yes. Right? Did I miss anything? No. And then you're before the meeting, you're always going to throw a third one in there. Don't put this in the email, but you're going to throw this third one in. Has anything changed since we last spoke? God, I can't believe I'm giving them this for free, right? People pay $500 a month and you're getting coaching that our students get right now for free. This is so huge, Brian. And nobody asks it. Has anything changed since we last spoke? Because guess what, Brian? Things changed. And it's good for you to learn that before you go through the meeting, right?
It's intuitive, and yet it's not intuitive that we don't want to hear bad news, but we ought to want to hear bad news or that things change. We should hear all of that up front so we have more information. I want to go back even further now in the process, assuming that Tina's never going to get back to me, and that it's okay, and that I'm going to wash, rinse, repeat, and maybe 6 months from now I'm going to go back to Joe or maybe go back to Tina. But so making that assumption that everything best laid plans are not always going to work out. How many? So let's say because I'm a B2B business, right? I'm doing business with other businesses. How much cold outreach should I plan to do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis? I mean, should I reach out to 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people? What's the number?
Yeah. So we have, and like I do, there's one I do for myself, daily goal sheets every day where you write down your goals as if they've already occurred, and then your activities. One of those activities should always be your cold outreach. I will tell you this. If you're anything like me, if you're anything like most people, when I started tracking, first thing you got to track. So I recommend, and they can go to eastonuniversity.com/goals and get the template for my goal sheet. And they'll see little dots on there that should be their calls. Okay. I know it sounds childish, but fill in your bubbles, because you're going to think you made 7 calls and realize, oh my God, I only made 1, 2, 3, 4. It was just that one with Tina felt like 3 calls. Oh, hope I never talk to Tina again. Right? So you got to track. You got to measure it. Now, your question was, how many should I make? Let me tell you the mistake that I made so you don't have to make it. Way back 25 years ago, I started with 10. I'm just going to tell you right now, if you can do 10, you can do 20. So I would do a number no less than 20. Here's why. What I want you to do is take this thing end this thing, and I know you're going to be using one of them to make calls, but I want you to set them down. I want you to close your email. I want you to get your freaking chat messenger or whatever the heck the company is using, and I want you to close that down. And I want you to just make 20 phone calls. Okay. Now, if you're leaving the voicemail that I taught them to make, who you are, how you're connected, and that you have an idea that you want to get their opinion on, it's 28 seconds a call. Okay. So even if you're a little bit slow and you get caught off guard, some bird flies into your window, let's just call it an hour and a half, and that's way too much time, but you're going to be able to knock that out. Start with 20, okay? I make 80, but I've been doing this a long time. But I can make 80 outreach calls in 2 hours, 37 minutes or less, okay?
Let's pause right there. So you said calls. You're assuming that I have their phone number or that
Yep.
I was able to get it.
Yep.
And I'm assuming that you want calls because that's the most personal way to...
Yeah, nobody's doing it.
No one's
right?
doing it. Okay.
And it's just everybody's trying to be lazy and shortcut with the emails.
Well,
why not take the calls?
Well, so I've had some degree of success with going alternate routes, like DMs on Instagram, because I know people are looking at them for personal reasons. So I'll go the personal route. I've had some success. I've had some success with Twitter too, like just rolling up on a stranger that I wanted to meet or talk to, and I've approached that person like that. So I'll just, by hook or by crook, I'll get to them the way I can get to them.
I would do 20. If it's 20 DMs, fine. If it's 20 texts, fine. You got to just work the numbers, and then you'll start to work out your process, and then you need to trust your process. And this is why everybody has, and I'm sure you've had this with your business. Best months we ever had. Worst 3 months we ever had. Best month we ever had. Because what happens is immediately when we have success, we stop and take pictures, right? Oh, success, success, success. Let's all go get a coffee. When you've had success, that is the best time to be making calls, because I can't explain it, but there's a mojo to your voice or DMs or whatever you want. But don't be afraid of making calls. And if you're like, well, I don't have their numbers, there's plenty of plugins that, if you want to spend a ton of money, go to Zoom Info. If you want to spend not so much money, go to Lucia. There's plenty of plugins out there that will give you somebody's mobile.
I love that advice. So I want to respect your time. We've been talking for 90 minutes almost here. You've given...
It goes by quick, but man, I think we've made a lot of breakthroughs.
A lot of gold.
I'm really hoping that we've helped the viewers and help the listeners, because that's what I love the most, is the audience, and you've got a great one.
Final words of advice here as we're rounding third, coming home, or for the jiu-jitsu move, as we're about to get the tap out. Final words.
Final words is this: whatever you think, however difficult you think it is to be successful, it's not. Okay? This is like jiu-jitsu. There may be a bully in your life that's been bullying you and picking on you. When you learn the right process, hopefully we'll avoid fights altogether. I'm not encouraging fighting. But when you understand a process, things start to unfold and they become more simple. If you're not going to learn my process, find a process, find a system, okay? But don't look for clever, witty tricks. Look for, like, the gift that I would say I was born with is situational awareness. And the more you can, and situational awareness can be learned. The more that you can learn things like, hey, I'm going too hard here. I'm not going hard enough here. I didn't do the work and I didn't make the calls. And you can just get a process and trust the process. I am telling every single person out there, as a kid that went with a single mom that made $4,000 to now I make tens of millions of dollars and I'm very happy. It's all just following a process. Find a process, trust the process, follow the process. The world will reward you. I promise you.
I mean, we were just sitting back, chopping it up, reminiscing about the good old days and all that. Tracking my roots, where I came from. And